He's all about the good stuff.
And I go to a church that's similar to that, and you can take that too far.
Yes, sometimes you can take that.
It can be dangerous. It can give people, because there's nothing in the Bible that says we will never get sick. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that says that we won't die. We live in a fallen world, and in a fallen world, bad things happen to Christians.
Things happen to Christians.
We are not immune from it. And I think that's a very dangerous message, that in certain denominations in the Christian faith, that's a dangerous message.
Welcome to the Bookish Introverts podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, we are back and we have a great book to discuss today.
We do.
Girl, you picked a great book this time. I really enjoyed it.
I was proud of myself.
Yeah.
I was proud of myself.
This time today, we are discussing Christine Dillon's, what's it called? Grace in Strange Disguise.
Yes.
Great. And I thought that was an interesting title.
It is an interesting title.
When I first read it, I was like, I wonder what that means exactly.
And we found out.
What was it about the book that drew your attention when you were picking?
Honestly, it was the title at first.
Okay.
I hadn't heard of Christine Dillon.
I hadn't either.
The name was not familiar to me, but the title, first of all, part of the cover is blue. Mm-hmm. It's blue. Mm-hmm. And I like blue. So that caught my attention too.
Yeah.
Not so much the design, just squirrel.
Now, nothing against the author, but I kind of am a judge of book by its cover, even though we're not supposed to, and so I'm really susceptible, and as most people are, most of us are susceptible to covers, and just based off the cover, this is not a book I would have chosen, which is a good lesson to us all.
Don't judge a book by its cover. There's truth.
You need to look beyond the surface of people and books, and so there's a lesson in that, don't you think?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you chose this. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. It was a fairly easy read. It was not it wasn't as carefree as, say, the last one we did, the cupcake.
No,
but it wasn't as heavy as This Present Darkness.
No.
So it was a nice little in between. Parts of it were heavy, but that was to be expected.
And I don't know about you, but I enjoy more. I like grittier, heavier books. Yes, I like books with a little bit of meat. Now, I do enjoy fluffier, lighter books too. But I especially when it comes to the podcast, I kind of enjoy heavier reads because I feel like you get a little bit
more to discuss.
Yeah, there's more to discuss,
more to talk about and pick apart.
Yeah, but when you're like us, we could sit here and talk about nothing for an hour and pretty much carry it off. So
fortunately, that's true.
Yeah. So
I want to talk about her for a minute.
Her.
The author.
Oh yeah, the bio,
not the character.
Hey,
the author. My bad. Christine Dillon. She is Australian and is a physiotherapist there, or was a physiotherapist, which I believe is basically a physical therapist.
Yeah, I wondered that as I was reading it. I kind of looked it up, and it sounded like it probably was similar to what we would call a physical therapist.
Those crazy Australians, they have different terms for everything.
They do.
I've learned that since the day I saw Crocodile Dundee.
Crocodile Dundee taught you everything you need to know about life.
That's exactly. Yeah. They all wrestle crocodiles, right?
Exactly. I don't want to wrestle.
It says she writes storyteller on any airport forms.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't really know what that means.
Well, in looking at the rest of her books, I did go to her website and kind of surf around a little. I think they're like writing tutorials for like authors. That's I kind of
would be helpful.
Yeah, I kind of think that's maybe what that is. So.
Spends much of her time either telling Bible stories or training others to tell Bible stories, and that comes through in this book. And basically, it's just if I'm getting this right from what I saw in the book, it's kind of a Sunday school, but it's like you're telling someone the story and letting them draw from it what applies to their life.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. She was based in Taiwan from 1999 to 2021. So
she's kind of been around.
Yes. And she has recently returned to Australia and is continuing to work with OMF International, which is... we had looked this up, and now we don't remember.
Here's a little behind the scenes thing for the people that are into that. We recorded this podcast yesterday, and
we did.
And when we went in to edit and listen to it, it was like, hello, my name is Brett. Yeah. So needless to say, we get to do this all over again, and it was completely user error. We're still learning the technique. So not only are we trying to learn just talking in front of a camera and all that stuff, we also have to learn the techniques. So
we're gonna do a couple of things differently and try to keep this fresh, because I'm sure there were some things we didn't discuss, and obviously there are main things we're going to discuss again. That's okay.
Exactly. So we'll get through it.
This is her first novel, and it was released in October 2017. I'm not sure exactly when she wrote it, but it was released in 2017. Now it's set in like 2005 or 1995.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Early 2000s, mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it's not set in our current day.
Right. And there are 6 novels in the series.
6 novels.
The 6th one was released in 2021, so she churned them out pretty fast. She's also very active hiking, swimming, cycling,
which is depicted in the, and I'm wondering if this is sort of an autobiographical. It's fiction. I mean, but I'm wondering if it's based off of her life, because the main character is a physiotherapist. In the book, they reference hiking and sort of having an active lifestyle, and so and then of course the cancer part of it. We probably ought to say up front, the book deals with cancer, so we're going to be talking about it.
Yes.
So if I know some people that have had to deal with that, it may be a little bit of a triggering subject, so we want to be sensitive to that. So just be aware that we will be talking about cancer off and on throughout as we discuss the book.
We will.
So anyway, so with some of the similarities to what I've read from her bio to what was included in the book, part of me wonders if maybe it's based off of her.
There's nothing in her bio that states she is a cancer survivor, but a lot of people like to keep that.
It's kind of a private thing.
Private, which is, fair play.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not obligated to tell anyone anything about our lives.
Absolutely not.
So,
and in the interest of that, I will go ahead and say that Brett asked me when I picked this book. I think it was
because I started it about a week before you did.
2 days after I gave you the name of the book, I think you texted me.
Yeah.
And he texted me. He was like, this deals with cancer, right? I said, yeah. And he asked if I was going to be okay, because most of you probably know, all of you probably know, I was diagnosed with cancer 6 months ago.
Yeah.
That is a little bit of another thing that drew me to it. When I read the description, I was like, well, you know what? We'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
And see, because I was curious.
So you don't shy away from things just because you're dealing with it personally. Because I'm in a readers group, a Christian readers book on Facebook, and it's a huge group. There's like, I don't know, I think 200,000 people in it, so it's huge.
Well, yeah, that's
and I've seen a lot of people post. Not only do they post about the books they're reading about, but they also ask for book recommendations. And I've seen a lot of posts from people that are like, "I'm dealing with cancer right now," either themselves or somebody, and they're like, "So I don't want anything with cancer in it." So sometimes people,
I can understand that.
Yeah, sometimes people that deal with it, it's like it's too much personal for them. It's too much in their real life that they don't want it in their fiction. So I wasn't sure if you would be that.
I can definitely understand that, and it would probably depend on my mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes my mood is I don't want to deal with real life at all. I'd rather just escape into something else.
Yeah.
But I was curious, and I was curious to see. I didn't realize it was set in Australia at the time, so that added a different aspect to it. But it was a good book.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It really got heavy sometimes, and I teared up a few times, but it was a solid choice, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but like sometimes, like with COVID, I will put down a book if it mentions COVID or face masks one time. I will absolutely put the book down. I will not read a book that mentions COVID.
I'm just so tired of talking about COVID.
Yeah. So I understand people if they're going through cancer or whatever. I can understand them being like, okay, you know what? I'm having to deal with this so much in my real life. I don't want to read it in a book.
I mean, if you want to write a book about that and it helps you deal with whatever you went through during that, then hey, go ahead. I'm not interested in reading it. Yeah. That's fine. Plenty of people are. So
yeah, and I read a review. I'm a real big review person. I don't read them so much to decide if I want to read a book because I don't want people's influence on whether I read a book or not. I want to experience it for myself. But I do, and not so much for Christian fiction, for secular fiction. I tend to read the reviews. I like to read the bad reviews because I want to know if there's any profanity or if there's any dirty scenes. And usually the reviews will tell you that in secular books. But I do, like, once I read a book, I kind of do like to go in and read the reviews, which I'm opposite of most people. I like to read the bad reviews because I like to see what people don't like about the book. And one of the reviews that I read was from a person that they gave it a 1-star review because they had dealt with cancer, and this book didn't have anything. It was like nothing to do with their experience, and so in their opinion, this was not accurate. And I thought, everybody that you can both have the same type of cancer, and the journey you take
can be completely different.
is totally different. Your treatment journey is totally different. Cancer is not cookie cutter, even if you both have breast cancer, even if you both have whatever, so
because it's all they tailor everything to the individual.
Absolutely.
There's different things they have to keep in mind. They have to keep in mind, are you on any other medications? Do you have high blood pressure? Are you
lifestyle?
What's your lifestyle?
Your lifestyle compared to theirs.
Do you live alone? Do you have a spouse? Do you there's just so many factors. So no two cancer journeys are identical.
Yeah.
But our main character is Esther. She is young, 26, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I think she's in her mid to late 20s.
Yes, I keep getting mixed up. It was 26 or 28, but I'm like 98% sure it's 26.
Yeah.
She is I believe the only child. It kept saying only daughter, but no one ever talked about a brother anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's just flat out the only child of.
Hey, before you get too far into it, I want to say one more thing. So remember that.
Okay.
I felt a lot of like anger while I was reading this book, and not really I want to throw the book down and never touch it again kind of anger.
No, not that kind of anger.
Not that kind of anger. There was nothing. I loved the book. I absolutely loved the book. It was a 5-star read for me. But some of the characters' behavior really made me angry in a righteous sort of way.
Yes.
Like, did you experience that in any way? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm not the type of person that hates characters just because they're ugly or just because they're this or just because. Yes, I know you are. If the character does anything Melanie doesn't like, she hates them for the rest of the book. Like, to me, I'm just like
face.
Yeah. To me, I'm like, okay, they're like not a nice person, so there's a lot of room for character growth there.
If their character does grow, I'll hand that to them, but otherwise, no, you get no sympathy.
Exactly. You're like, okay, you are dead to me. That's kind of how Melanie is. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, she's the only child of William and Blanche.
Blanche.
His name's William, right?
William.
Is it William?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Her father is the pastor of a mega church in Melbourne, Australia. When I say
and that's
mega
one
church,
strike against him.
I mean mega. Well, there are good pastors of mega churches, but this is mega. This is international radio programs,
television,
millions and millions of followers. So they're comfortable in their lifestyle. She still lives at home. Can't blame her. I'm sure it's a beautiful house.
If my dad, if we had a big old mansion, my parents would have a hard time getting me out too.
The book technically starts with her diagnosis of cancer, but then it flips back. It's like a few paragraphs, and then it flips back.
You get to see just a little glimpse of her life before the cancer.
Yeah, was it 2 months earlier? I think.
So. Yeah,
and to when she's winning Employee of the Year at the hospital she works at, and she's excited for it because, well, number one, it's $100,000 for her department, which.
I'm just saying.
I should have been a physical therapist, apparently.
The economy must have been better in her world than it is in ours.
And she gets a trip to the Blue Mountains.
A 2-day trip to the Blue Mountains. Yeah.
Again, I forgot to do it yesterday, too. I did not look up the Blue Mountains. I may
Google it, and I may Google Blue Mountains, and if there's an impressive picture, I'll flash it.
I'm sure there's an impressive picture. It's Australia.
Yeah. See, when they say Blue Mountains, like here where we're from, we have Poto Mountain. Well, it's not really a mountain. Like, it's not anything impressive. So, so I just want to know if the Blue Mountains are like, you know, like when you see it, you're like, wah, 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 you know.
Is that trombone?
Yeah. Or if it's like, wow.
It's probably wow. Most Australian stuff is wow.
Is it? Okay.
Well,
I have an author friend, Lily Mirren. She's a USA Today bestselling author. She's from Australia, so I may have to say, hey.
It's been my experience. Most stuff that's in Australia and that comes out of Australia is usually stunning.
Yeah,
the sights, the people.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
Nicole Kidman.
I mean,
Chris Hemsworth. I mean, it's really just kind of unfair.
Chris Hemsworth from Australia.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Hugh Jackman's Australian too?
Yeah. Yeah. I think isn't what's that country singer?
Keith Urban.
Keith Urban.
Married to Nicole Kidman. Man from Snowy River. Watch Man from Snowy River. Do yourself a favor.
I will.
Find it somewhere. Gorgeous movie.
It's an old movie, isn't it? I've heard of it.
In the 80s. Yeah. Those were my two introductions to Australian culture. Oh, okay. Crocodile Dundee and the Man from Snowy River. Two very different types of Australian culture there.
You are so culturally
the opposite end of the spectrum. Both have great soundtracks, though.
Hey, I love a good movie soundtrack.
Me too.
Dude, one of my favorite movie soundtracks is what's the Age of Adeline. That is a fantastic movie soundtrack.
Isn't that the animated one?
No.
Isn't that a Tim Burton movie?
Mm-mm. No, it's Blake Lively. She gets struck by lightning and dies for a few minutes, and lightning brings her back to life. And so, like in the 1930s or whatever, and then this lightning strike does something in her body, and she stops aging. So she goes through all these decades and never ages. Like her daughter actually gets older than she is. They have to start pretending that her daughter's like her niece or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good movie.
Huh.
You gotta watch it.
Okay.
You gotta watch it.
Anyway, the book.
Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah, that was a total rabbit trail.
Sorry. So she gets a promotion under her terms, which means she can still work with patients, but she also gets a raise because she's turned down promotions before because she likes to work with patients. That's why she got into physical therapy in the first place.
And I'm just saying, I would love to have a job where I don't have to see or talk to people. She's way better than I am. I'm at the point in my life where the fewer people I have to look at and talk to, the better. So,
okay. Just stay at home next time we do this.
Old and cranky.
He's always cranky. But
I'm just teasing. I love people.
She's also excited because her father didn't want her to be a physiotherapist because it's not a real doctor.
It's not prestigious enough. Yes.
That was red flag number one.
Yes.
For me.
Daddy started throwing red flags very early in the story.
Red flags all over. More red flags than a North Korean army base.
But to be clear, to be honest, though, the whole family was sort of lacking. So to them, they probably didn't see the red flags because they were all cut from the same cloth.
True.
And Esther's
or they're just
boyfriend.
used to it.
Yeah.
They're just used to it.
Yeah, they're just used to it. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah,
another day at the mill for them.
Yeah, exactly.
But she goes with her boyfriend on a hike in the Blue Mountains. They're not on the trip. They're not staying at the Blue Mountains. But they go on a hike together, and that's when he proposes. So she's engaged. Young love. He's the youth pastor at her dad's church. Her dad is mentoring him. Mm-hmm. And her fiance, Nick, didn't really have a father figure in his life. So her dad's been kind of a surrogate father to him. So there's a bond there, which under normal circumstances would be nice, but
yeah.
And they're just, young love. They're excited, and they start to plan their wedding. And we find out, and she finds out that the grandparents she thought were dead all this time aren't technically dead. I'm not sure why I said technically.
Yeah.
They're not really dead.
They've been kind of miscommunicated from the family.
Yes.
Is that the word? Miscommunicated?
Excommunicated.
Excommunicated, yeah.
Her mother's parents are gone. I don't remember about her father's father, but her father's mother, her father has cut off all contact.
Yeah.
With Esther's grandmother.
And this was one of my first times to really not like Dad, because
he just shut down and he wouldn't give a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go no contact with someone, that's just explain.
But my thing is, he's a pastor. He's supposed to, and I get pastors are they're human. They have the same emotions that we do, the good stuff emotions and the bad emotions. But to me, pastors are to be a little bit more above reproach, because, and Timothy is a very clear on the way a pastor should be. And Timothy says that, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it says something to the effect of, if you can't control your own family, how can you be the shepherd of your church? Yes. I don't think control's the word the Bible uses,
no.
And so I'm like, okay, this man has literally turned his back on his mother in her old age. And that's not what a forgiving man of God should do. So anyway,
no, yeah. True.
He's human, but.
Yeah. So she finds out then that her paternal grandmother is actually still alive.
Yeah. No, I don't remember.
She knows better than to push.
Yeah. I can't remember. I don't know if you do. Did the dad and mom tell her that grandma was dead, or was that just an assumption that she?
I think it might have been an assumption on her part, because no one ever talked about her. So,
okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember if I just forgot that detail or if.
Yeah. He also will not let her ask her best friend Gina to be her bridesmaid, because Gina is not pretty enough. She's overweight and she's not pretty enough. And he insists she have 5 bridesmaids because she only wants 2. She's not a person that looks to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
But he is all about, oh, well, you're the only child and this is your
bride and bridal party needs to fit the image of the family.
Yes. So it has to fit the image of the church and, our place in society.
And that's when I took one more step toward, I do not like you.
Yeah. So she's not too keen on the way the wedding planning is going.
Yeah.
And her fiance is just kind of like, well, just go along with whatever he wants. Her fiance is, whatever, smooth sailing. Let's keep all the waters calm.
Yes.
No need to stir anything up. He also, Esther's father, wants him to apply for an internship with someone named John Watson. I don't know if this is a real person, John Watson, or if it was made up for the book. I don't know much about the church in Australia.
It's like a pastor mentorship fellowship type thing.
And the program takes 6 months, and he would leave like 2 weeks after their wedding. Yeah. They'd go on a honeymoon and come back and he'd leave.
Yeah, if you're a newlywed, you don't really want your new spouse to be gone for the next 6 months.
But her dad wants him to do this, so he says, I think I should do it. And she's like, well, okay. Because that's what she's used to.
What are you going to do? Daddy has spoken, so.
And her mom is making her wedding dress. Apparently her mom's an amazing seamstress. So her mom is making her wedding dress, and it's at that point that we get into an issue.
Mm-hmm.
She's standing there and her mom's, pinning and sewing. Most girls will know what I'm talking about. And she feels a stab in her arm. There's a stab of pain in her armpit. She says something about it, and her mother's like, I didn't. There's nothing there. She's checking to see if there's a pin that she left in there or something. And Esther's just like, well, okay.
And her mom even got a little testy.
She's a little defensive.
I've been doing this for years. I've never stuck anyone. I would never do that.
She's a little defensive, but I think maybe when her husband gets accusatory at all, she probably gets defensive then too. She's just like, no, I didn't.
Yes.
Because he's not abusive. He's sort of
kind of
slyly abusive.
Yeah, kind of emotional,
in there.
Maybe a little bit verbal, abusive. Yeah,
because he's such a big presence.
Yeah,
he's got a big personality and everything, and it just sort of dominates everyone else.
And mom and daughter both portray. I mean, you can sort of see
no one stands up to him.
The effects of that. Mental verbal abuse.
No one disagrees with
because
him.
They cower in him.
No matter what their own opinion is, they don't disagree with him on anything because they know it's just going to make him mad, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
That's not good. If your family feels that way about you, that's not good.
Yeah.
So she feels that, and she goes to the doctor, her doctor, and he's just kind of dismissive and like, well. You're young. No. So infuriating.
Yes. So if you ever go to the doctor and your doctor puts you off because you're too young or you're too, or you're not this, find a new doctor.
And
there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion.
Yeah. And I said this yesterday and I'm going to say it again. I'm trying not to repeat myself on stuff, but, and like I said yesterday, I try not to get, it's not political, but, like, social type sexism and things like that. I believe, I can get any job he can get, except he has more education than me, so he can probably get a better job.
I don't know about that.
But when it comes to the medical world, doctors, men and women alike, it's more often a male doctor, but women doctors do too, tend to dismiss a woman's concerns. They'll ask you embarrassing questions, or they'll tell you, oh, well, maybe if you lost some weight, or, well, you're getting older, and it'll kind of get swept under.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a feeling about it, push.
Yeah.
Ask for a second opinion or ask for tests or something.
Hey,
just don't let it go by.
I would much rather get a second opinion and have a second person say, no, it's nothing.
Don't let it go by. And sometimes it's not meant badly. It's just, that's what they think.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it just, it's kind of like maybe a mom taking her toddler to the doctor because she feels like something's wrong, and maybe the doctor's like, oh, it's an over-concerned mother. Well, no, something's wrong with the kid.
Yeah.
Take a closer look at the kid. I realize you're in a rush, but listen to your patients.
Yeah.
So she leaves, and then I think a couple of weeks later, she's treating a patient, and the lady she's treating, she's laying on her stomach, and then she has the lady roll back over. And when the lady does, I think she's a little bit of an older lady. Her arm just kind of goes wild. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she's spinning like a top or what, but she accidentally, her hand flies out and kind of strikes
Esther.
Thank you. I almost called her Grace.
It feels
sister-in-law's name. You wouldn't think I'd have trouble remembering Esther. Kind of strikes her in the chest, and it hurts, like really
like
hurts.
Throbbing pain.
She stays with the patient, and then when the patient leaves, it still hurts. She runs to the bathroom to look. She doesn't see any bruising. She goes to her boss to talk to her, and her boss is like, we should get that checked out. So the hookup in
she had an appointment.
The hookup in health medicine that day, she has an appointment down the street at her boss's doctor's office, and they do a mammogram, and that's when they find out. Well, the mammogram doesn't show anything, but they do a biopsy after that.
Needle biopsy.
Yes, and they find out it is indeed breast cancer, and it is an aggressive form of breast cancer. They find there are actually there's actually more than one. It's just that's the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was only in one on one side, and
it had moved into the lymph nodes.
Yes,
and
so they
stage 3, I think.
Stage 3,
I think it said
stage 3. So she is immediately recommended for mastectomy, which she undergoes, and chemo treatment afterward. I'm assuming for the lymph nodes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have breast cancer, so I can't speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got to figure out how to tell her family, and that is that's a hard thing to do, and especially I'm assuming she's probably a little like me, the way she was raised. Not that, oh goodness, not that my parents raised me that way, but
yeah.
Because of the way she is raised, this is just the way I am. I don't want to bother people with bad news.
Same.
I don't want to tell people bad news. I don't want to tell them something that's going to make them sad. She doesn't know how anyone's going to handle it. So she's got to figure out if she wants to tell him. And at the same time, she's trying to process all this. And she's thinking, what did I do? Is this a punishment of some sort?
Do I have an unresolved sin? Yeah.
Yes. And that could come from her raising, or if you're like me, that was my first thought.
Just overthinking. Yeah. Was it really?
What have I done? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'd be willing to bet it's probably a lot of people's thoughts. Is this a punishment? Why is this happening? What is it I'm being punished for?
That sounds like a logical human. What?
Yeah, I would think a lot of people think that.
Why is this happening?
But, my first instinct was to keep it to myself for at least a couple of days. But I'm a horrible liar, and someone asked how I was, and that was the end of that. But she decides she needs to tell Nick first. So they're supposed to have dinner that night, and after dinner they go for a walk. Oh no, it was before dinner.
It was before dinner.
Before dinner. Before dinner they go for a walk. Because
she was going to tell her parents after dinner.
Yes. So they're off for a walk, and then she finally works up the courage to tell him, and his reaction is just awful. It's awful.
Awful, man.
He keeps a distance between them after that, for one thing.
Yeah.
What the heck? And I mean, I understand he had to process. And
yes, people do have to have time to process.
Yes. And, if that's the way he processes things, that's I can't really judge him, but he doesn't get any better.
No.
As the minutes tick by.
Yeah.
And they still walk, but again, at a distance from each other, which isn't cool.
Yeah.
So she asks him, will you help me tell my parents? And he says, well, I need time to process. And leaves.
Which, I'm sorry, that is such a weenie thing to do.
He leaves. He leaves her to it.
Yeah.
I could not. It's like, well, okay, so Nick sucks. And I was hoping he would come around later, so I was giving him the benefit of the doubt.
When I read that, and when he left and basically left her to tell her parents on her own, my thought was, that is such a typical guy thing. And this is a broad generalization. I know not all guys are like this.
Not all guys are like
but
this. No.
I was like, okay, that is such a guy thing to do. Like, sometimes when it comes to really heavy stuff, women tend to be a lot stronger than men with dealing and with stuff like that. Again, very broad.
It is broad, but
I do feel like sometimes men,
in my experience,
are not as strong when it comes to the emotional type stuff like that.
It's true. You're probably right.
Just my opinion.
Every once in a while, I tell him he's right, and he's happy. So she has to tell her parents alone. Her mom's response is to run out of the room, which I was like, wow. But I understood it a little later on, and we'll get to that. Her father's response is, why didn't you tell us earlier? Like, well, she told you the day of. But immediately for that response to be accusatory, that's not something she needed to hear.
Well, and again, and since I've never dealt with cancer like that, so like, I don't really feel like when you get that diagnosis, I don't really feel like you're obligated to run and tell people immediately, because you need time to process, and you need time to think, and you need time to grieve. So like, I thought that was a very...
Yes.
What do you think about that? Do you think people are obligated to tell bad things immediately?
I do not think so. I think sometimes it would help them more if they would go ahead and tell someone, but I understand the desire to keep it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I don't think they're under any obligation to tell anyone.
It's just different personalities.
It's no one's business.
Different people. Some people, the first thing they want to do is run and tell and some people just want to hide for a week. So
very true.
Yeah,
very true. So after that, he's like, well, how healthy is your faith? How strong is your faith? And you have to be like the woman who touched Jesus's garment. You have to be, and in theory, what he says sounds good, but it's not accompanied by anything like, we'll get you through this.
No.
Or I'm here for you.
There's no warmth or encouragement.
My poor girl, my baby girl, Yeah. None of that.
Yeah.
None. He doesn't hug her. He doesn't put an arm around her. He doesn't, wave at her from across the room. He didn't do anything.
And that moment in the book really told you exactly the kind of man he is.
He's shut himself off from emotions, really.
Yeah.
It's scary. And he decides that he'll call the elders and they'll anoint her with oil. And she's like, well, what if that doesn't work? I was like, well, you just have to have faith. That's true. I'm skating on thin ice. That's true. But it gets exhausting to hear. Even when it's said with love.
Yeah.
Because
it almost gets to the point that it sounds like a platitude.
Sometimes.
Oh, just
and people
platitude.
Could mean it, and people are saying it and they mean it, and they should mean it. But it's much easier said than done.
For sure. Yeah.
And that is not me telling people to quit saying stuff like that to me by any means. It's just sometimes you hear it better than other times.
Yeah.
It just all depends on your day and how it's going.
Exactly.
Just
yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're in it, when you've been given that sort of news, sometimes you just need someone to wrap you in your arms and say, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need the actions and you need the words.
And I'm sorry, y'all. I say so and I'm trying to break myself of it, but it's apparently a bad habit. I've listened to these podcasts. I'm like, just say the words, you moron. She goes to find her mother after her run-in with her father, disastrous news breaking to her father, and finds her mother in her mother's room, and finds out that her maternal grandmother, died of breast cancer at a young age. Mm-hmm. She was never told this, and no one was ever told this because her father said, his church is called Victory Church, and there's nothing victorious about a Christian dying of cancer.
And that infuriated me.
I'm going to have to disagree with him, because a Christian dying of cancer just means they're in heaven.
Yeah.
How much more victorious do you want to be?
Exactly.
But I get where he's coming from, because his church is big on faith healing, and abundant blessings, and you'll have this and you'll have that. He's all about the good stuff.
And I go to a church that's similar to that, and you can take that too far.
Yes, sometimes you can take that.
It can be dangerous. It can give people, because nothing in the Bible says, we as Christians, there's nothing in the Bible that says we will never get sick. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that says that we won't die. We live in a fallen world. And in a fallen world, bad things happen to Christians. Things happen to Christians. We are not immune from it. And I think that's a very dangerous message, that in certain denominations in the Christian faith, that's a dangerous message.
Yes. my church, almost every church I've ever gone to in my entire life has believed in healing by faith. I believe in healing by faith.
Yeah.
You can't go around saying that if a person wasn't healed, that just means they didn't have enough faith. You're blaming them. Why are you blaming them? Don't do that. That's not nice.
You can have all the faith in the world, but when it comes right down to it, God's will, your faith does not usurp God's will. Our faith does not usurp. God's will is what's going to be done. Now, we can have faith and we can pray and ask God to heal us. We can have all the faith in the world. But if God decides for whatever reason that we're going to have to go through that, no amount of prayer faith is going to change it.
And healing doesn't necessarily always happen immediately.
No.
God may heal you through prayer and faith and intercession and however you want to phrase it, but he may not do it immediately.
Yeah.
There may be a plan in all this.
Yeah. And I hate to say
That's what I'm holding on to.
Sometimes
maybe a plan in
God may heal you through death, because we get our ultimate healing through going home to be with him.
Also true.
And I know that's not what people want to hear, especially when you're going through it.
No.
But yeah. And medical intervention, I think sometimes we discount the miracle of medical intervention.
Yes.
Back when Jesus, back in the Bible days, they didn't have the medical technology that we have today. So they could die of a toothache.
Yeah.
Because of an infection or something. So if we're healed not through divine intervention, but through medical intervention, I believe that is a form of a miracle, because God has given doctors the medical aptitude to not only to be able to create medications and medical procedures.
Yeah.
Men are not smart enough to come with that. God inspired men to be able to do all that. So I think sometimes we discount the miracle of medical technology and medical intervention.
I agree.
You?
Yeah.
Not a popular opinion for some people. They think it's divine intervention or nothing. But take your miracles where you get them.
I mean, it is a divine, just in another pathway.
Well, exactly.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, exactly.
I would say.
Yeah.
I'll probably get in trouble for saying it to someone.
Well,
that's what I'll say.
These days you can't say anything without offending someone. So plow on.
They have a meeting with the church elders, and William attributes Esther's cancer to an attack from Satan, which,
yeah,
it could be a direct attack from Satan. It could be an indirect attack from Satan. I mean, if you want to play the long game, technically everything bad that ever happens is an attack from Satan, because Satan is just kind of, he's running rampant and causing trouble.
Yeah. He's out to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this in this present darkness.
My nose itches so bad. I don't know why. Makeup, I have no idea. Just so itchy. But yeah, could it be a direct attack? It could.
It could be, but because we talked about this in this present darkness.
Yeah.
Satan does have a certain amount of free reign in this world, but he also has parameters. If you look at the story of Job, Satan was allowed to attack Job, but he had parameters.
Yes.
He wasn't allowed to take Job's life. He could take his family. He could touch his family. He could take all of his money. He could do all this, but God said you cannot touch his life. And so, yeah. So
I heard a joke the other day about that. They did all that to Job, but they left his wife alive.
Yeah.
What's his wife like?
Exactly.
Food for thought.
Food for thought. I wonder.
That does make her wonder if the cancer is a satanic attack, rather than God being displeased with her, because she has wondered that, which I get. Wondered the same thing.
Yeah.
Is he
I think as humans, we've all thought
upset
that
with
at one
me?
time or another. Yeah.
And
then again, you've got the other people that stub their toe and think Satan caused it. Well, no, you just didn't move your foot out of the way. You're
just not looking where you're going.
Exactly. Yeah.
That coffee table, that's been there for a long time.
Exactly.
You're just not paying attention.
Exactly.
he tells her to pray and ask for healing, and she does. And then he tells her to be more emphatic. No, you have to sound like you mean it.
Yeah.
You think she doesn't?
Yeah. It doesn't matter what the intention of her heart was. Did she sound emphatic enough?
She's in a room with her father and all these people who I'm assuming are men.
And that's a lot of pressure to pray in front of people.
I'm not good at prayer anyway.
Oh, me either.
I'm not going to pray on demand. No. I'm sorry. That's terrifying to me. Pray out loud in the middle of a group of people. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's why I don't pray when we have like Thanksgiving. So
I know.
Please don't
I hate
make me
that.
pray over this meal. I'm begging you.
Years ago at a church I went to, and I knew the pastor really well. So he called on me to pray. You know how sometimes in church they'll say, come down and take the offering. And then usually whoever, one of the people that are taking the offering, the offering plate bearers, usually one of them will be called on to pray. Well, he called on me. Well, I mustered through it, like nearly had a heart attack, because I hate doing stuff like that. Well, I told him after the service, I said, look, I do not like praying in front of people. I don't like being put on the spot like that. Please do not do that again. What do you think happened the very next time?
He did it again.
He's
trying to get you out of your comfort zone, Brett.
And that's exactly what he said. And I muttered through it again, and I went him after church. I said, if you ever do that again, God himself will not be able to find your body. I am not kidding.
He's threatening a man of the cloth.
I did. And he said, I'm just trying to get you out of your comfort zone. I said, I like my comfort zone. Keep your hand out of it.
There's good ways and bad ways to get people out of their comfort zone. My best friend is excellent at getting me out of my comfort zone. She's been doing it for almost 30 years.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you need to respect people's wishes too. I understand wanting to get people out of the comfort zone, but sometimes you need to respect people's comfort zone.
That's true. I think if she made me try and do something in front of a group of people, I think I might. Well, wait. She has made me do something in front of a group of people, but I survived.
Yeah. Well,
and I love her. You don't necessarily have a strong relationship with this person other than pastor.
Yeah,
respect.
Yeah. We used to work together years ago.
You're right and wrong.
But what I did, see, he was always trying to get me to teach Sunday school class. No, I'm not teaching a Sunday school class. He was real big on making people do things they don't want to do. So anyway, I went to, there was one guy, he was like every service, like he was always one of the offertory people. And then usually there were others that circled, but he was always. So I went up to him and I said, Cody, I do not like being called on. I said, if that ever happens, will you? And he was like, yes. He said, I will take care of you. He said, because I'm going to tell him, I just don't want to be called on to even take up the offering anymore. Yeah. He said, no. He said, from now on, he said, if he does that again, he said, I will pray. He said, you don't have to worry about it. So, and he did that a couple times. And Clint, I wasn't going to say his name. So yeah, so he, oops. Scratch that. You didn't hear that. So anyway,
bleep it out.
Yeah. So he came up. He came up after a couple of times. He was like, "Well," he said, "Why is Cody for praying for you?" I said, "Because I told you I don't want to do it, and I'm not going to do it, and you're not going to make me."
Don't force people to do stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love him to death. Like to this day, if I see him, I'll hug his neck, and we have fun talking. But yeah, that's just kind of one of his things.
Yeah.
He wants to try to help people and try to get them out of their comfort zone.
I get that mindset, but
you
if
also
you meet
have
with
to
initial resistance and then you keep meeting with resistance, just stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Stop.
So anyway, yeah.
So she's also been told, he tells her to fast to show God that she means business.
But do you really need to fast to show God you mean business?
I mean, maybe I should.
Not downplaying the importance of fasting.
No,
fasting
is very
because it's a biblical precept.
But you should only fast if you feel led to fast. Yes. Fasting to show God you mean business.
That's almost like
I've never even heard of such a thing.
That almost feels like making a deal with God.
Yeah. It's just no.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Again. Sorry, y'all. Oh, he also tells her to visualize, which I had a huge problem with.
Yes.
Visualizing. He's like, visualize yourself healthy and happy. And I was just like, I feel very much, I'm visualizing Eastern mysticism.
Yes, it felt very mystical.
Like, this is dangerously close to crossing a line for me. I do not want. Not impressed if this is your pastorly advice.
Yeah.
No.
Now, the Bible does instruct us that it's okay to meditate on things, meditate on the Word of God. But but that's really more thinking about what you've read and pondering.
Yes.
It's not like it's Eastern mysticism or whatever. Yeah.
And
that felt very much like that.
That was a huge, I was just like, no.
One of my favorite things to do is ponder. I love to sit around and think about, like, what's heaven going to be like? You know, what are angels going to look like? You know, like I love.
What's it going to be like?
Yeah. The very last scene of one of my books is a heaven scene. I love to ponder stuff like that.
And why not?
Yeah.
Ponder away.
Yeah.
Yeah, this visualizing thing.
I don't think you can visualize your way into good health. And that's basically that's the impression I got. Like, I just don't believe that's a Christian precept. Do you? Do you think it's possible to visualize your way to good health?
I feel like visualizing relies too much on self. If you're visualizing something, it's like you're giving yourself the
power.
Yeah. And that's not the case.
No.
And there may be people that disagree with us, and that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
We can have different opinions. That's fine.
Yeah. We can still be friends.
Sure. Maybe.
Yeah. But that's why I really kind of enjoyed this book, because it's interesting to see how different people operate in their life, you know, and to kind of contrast it to mine and contrast it to what the Bible says. And
absolutely.
You know, and a lot of times in books, you know, it's not that the author believes that particular thing, but they're building a character. So yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
They also anoint her with oil, which apparently involved pouring oil on her, like to the point Nick had to hand her a handkerchief.
Yeah, which I thought that was weird.
And I was just going, all I could see, and I know you haven't seen the movies, but all I could see in my head was from Return of the King with Denethor, and he's like pouring the oil over himself. I don't think Esther looks like John Noble, but sure. Anytime I've seen or been anointed with oil, it has been the forehead. I think at times it's been a couple other places, but never, you know, they're not emptying a bottle of Crisco over me. It's just well, it's never Crisco anyway. It's olive oil. That's not the point.
Yeah.
I don't know olive oil brands. Okay. It just, that was odd.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was odd to me. So if your church does that,
we're not judging.
We're not judging. It was just kind of weird.
It's a weird symbolism for us.
Yes.
But a part of me, I had a little bit of an imagery when that came to mind. I don't know if it did you. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but there is a, you know, when the Bible talks in the 23rd Psalm about anointing your head with oil, there's apparently back in the day, shepherd, and I don't know, they may even still do it today. I don't know. I'm not real into farming and agriculture, but back in the day,
we're not up on our shepherd's culture.
No, I'm not up on shepherd culture. But back in the day, they would anoint the shepherds or the sheep's heads with oil, because apparently the hair would sort of hang down. And so they would anoint the sheep's, I can't remember the whole story, but basically they would pour a huge amount of oil over their head, and the oil sort of kept flies from buzzing around the sheep's face.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of me wonders if maybe that's, you know, but then again, you know, there is a sect of churches, not just Christianity, but all over, like, you know, they kind of get one thing and then they go crazy with it. And like, I don't think people need to have a vat of olive oil poured over them in order to be healed.
I mean, I know I would prefer not to.
Yeah, exactly. So
a little strange.
Anyway, yeah, that imagery of that story that I had heard years ago, that kind of, when I read that kind of brought that story back to my mind.
Right. And she's after the prayer and everything, she goes to bed and she wakes up the next day and the lamp's still there, and she's instantly discouraged because she's been taught to believe that healing is instantaneous.
Yeah. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's
not. And she's still wondering if she's committed a sin or if her faith is lacking. But she has to go in for the mastectomy, and she has that done. Her mother comes to see her. Her best friend Gina comes to see her. Nick shows up once or twice. Won't meet her eyes.
Yeah.
And her father never comes.
Yes. Stand-up men in her family. And part of me really felt bad for her because when you receive that kind of diagnosis, I mean, my goodness, your life is in turmoil just because of that. And then to have to grapple with, am I a sinner? Am I an unrepentant sinner? Is my faith not strong enough? I mean, she basically's got a triple whammy, a quadruple whammy on top of.
Yeah. And she has basically because even though her mom comes to visit her mom is very distant.
Yeah.
Just in general, not because of the diagnosis. It's just who her mom is.
It's just who her mom is.
I think she's just become that way through the years to cope with things. I get the feeling
that no one, like our family's very huggy, very, like we love each other. And I get that I kind of get that their family is the total opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I have a support system. I have parents and my husband and, siblings. I have family, coworkers, friends, a boss, I have an amazing support system. I can't imagine going through this without even your parents. I mean, not because your parents are gone or, have already passed away, but because they literally just aren't really there for you and your fiance.
Your faith's not strong, so
really there for you. They're really the only person that's been reliable so far is this best friend that you've hurt.
Yeah.
Because you didn't ask her to be your bridesmaid in the wedding that is now postponed.
Yeah.
Because she has her surgery, I think 2 weeks before when the wedding was supposed to be. 2 weeks or a month or something like that. And she's, after the mastectomy, she starts up with the chemo. And while they're doing that, she runs into a woman named Joy.
I love Joy.
Who works there.
She was a phenomenal character.
She is what we would call a janitor. She was on the cleaning staff. Janitor maintenance. And she's venting. She's in a room pretty much by herself. Joy is there, but she's venting and she's angry at God and ranting and just talking to no one in particular. And Joy calls her out on it.
Wondering if she has an unforgiven sin, which is making her angry at herself. Yeah.
And Joy calls her out on it. Not in a bad way, not in a mean way.
No.
But she poses a few questions to Esther, and Esther gets mad, and we see a little bit of her father come out.
Yeah. She didn't preach to her, but she posed some questions that was intended to make her think.
Right.
Yeah.
And we see a little bit of her father come out because she immediately gets offended.
How dare you?
How dare you? Yeah. First, there's the social class thing.
Yeah.
What would a cleaner know?
Yeah.
And secondly, there's the I am the daughter of,
William. Blah,
how
blah,
dare
blah.
you think you know more? Just how dare almost anyone think they know more about this than me? But she can't get it out of her head. And she picks up the Bible and starts to read, and it starts a path for her, a very interesting path. I thought she starts reading the Gospels. She starts reading the Gospels. She looks up the stuff that's specific to the questions that Joy asked her, and then
she starts
that just kind of opens her eyes. I don't remember this. I do because her father's just cherry picked things to preach about.
Yeah.
And she's never really sat down and read her Bible.
Yeah.
So once she confirms all these questions that Joy has asked, she starts reading the Gospels straight through.
Yes. And this is why it's very important. That's a very good lesson in this book. that's why it's important. You cannot just read one verse of
No.
scripture and base an entire belief system on that. You need the context of the entirety of scripture. You need the context of all the verses behind it and all the verses in front of it. And sometimes the chapters behind it in front of it.
Yep.
You need the context of it all. You can twist anything and make it mean anything if all you're looking at is one verse.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. So that was a very good lesson in this book.
She prays, she goes through a couple of days of this, reading, and I think almost a week of this reading and learning. And she winds up praying about believing a lie, because that's basically what she's believed. She prays about reducing God to a benevolent father who pats her on the head. She calls him creator of the universe, which he is, and apologizes for wanting a heavenly wish granter, reducing him to a wish granter, and only thanking him when life was good. That's fair weather friend. Things are going smooth, so
yeah,
thank you. But it's so important to thank God even when things are not going good. And I'm preaching to myself here because I have trouble with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone does from time to time.
And that reminded me of a story, not a story that I read. There's a very popular charismatic preacher and his daughter. I saw an interview with her and she laughed and said she views God as a genie in a bottle. When I read that, I thought of that person. I thought, oh, that is such a dangerous way to think of God. God is not.
It is.
He's not there to.
He's not for you to take out and.
Yeah.
Just when it suits you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I honestly am.
Yeah.
But she's realizing that the Jesus she thought she knew wasn't really Jesus at all. And she grows closer to Joy. She grows closer to Gina. She starts thinking of ways to witness to the people in her life, not in a pushy way, but she brings it up and draws a few people in, and then a few others. I think there are a couple that are just like, but there are a couple that she plants a seed.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't go over well with her father, because she's questioning things, and it's questioning him, and he is just none too keen on having his daughter question him. And Nick is pretty upset because he's embarrassed that she wasn't healed of cancer, because he feels like it kind of makes her father and the church a joke. And clearly it's all her fault that she was not healed of cancer.
Yeah.
How dare she?
Yeah. Her diagnosis makes them look bad. Her cancer makes them look bad. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, horrible people.
I just don't know. And there's a couple of things that come out. She has a good day with her mom.
Yeah. And as I read this, part of me, until we got sort of on into the book before, because like in the beginning, probably in the first half of the book. So I was like, okay, so are we advocating this concept of if anything happens to you bad, then you don't have enough faith? Like, I almost wondered if, like, is this book a false gospel kind of book? But
right.
So that this, like, if you read this book, you really have to stay in there, because eventually you realize that's not what this book is.
Yes.
Yeah, but it took a while for me to watch, because I felt a little bit cringy by it at first, because I was like, okay, I almost felt like the book was teetering on the edge of a false gospel.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I get that.
But this is a great book to read if you want to see a dramatic character growth in a
yes.
Esther. She really had a tremendous character growth.
She really, really did.
A spiritual growth.
And I don't want to. The day with her mother is very nice, because Esther loses all her hair. I can't really identify with that. I myself have been on chemo for months. I think it's all oral. I've had an infusion. It did not go well. So we were like, yeah, well, let's not do that again. And I am supposed to start one later this month, a new one, but it hasn't caused my hair has not gone. It has thinned considerably. And even that is a little hard. And I told myself if I would rather lose my hair than almost any other side effect that I'm seeing on this list. I don't want to be nauseous all the time. I don't want to be in pain all the time. And so far I've tolerated it pretty darn good. You know, sometimes I don't feel well, and I mean, I'm just tired.
You've pretty much been able to do this podcast and work. And
it's the fatigue mostly that gets me, but my hair has thinned considerably. And if I find myself getting too upset and I'm like, oh, you said, you know, there are wigs. You can wear a wig. It does not really negate though, the emotions when you realize your hair is it because I mean, my hair was thick. It was thick. I used to have, I was telling Brett about this the other day. I used to have those, if I wanted to roll it and stick it up in like the thing, the claw, it had to be one of those big thick ones. But I bought a pack of those little bitty ones to keep my hair out of my face when I was doing makeup for the Halloween.
Oh yeah.
I bought some at the Dollar Tree, the $1.25 tree. And I realized the other day that one of those will hold all of my hair. And it was a sobering realization.
That must hit hard.
It was a sobering realization. And I have some feelings on that, but I'm going to refrain from getting political right now. He has no idea what I'm talking about, but some of you might.
Say it.
No, I have a few feelings on some people who are protesting in certain ways, and it's bugging me. But
I'm going to have to find out what you're
neither
talking about.
here nor there. We'll talk about it later. Neither here nor there. But she gets to have a fun day with her mom. You know, they take that because she's devastated. Her mom finds her sitting on the floor in the bathroom, surrounded by hair on the floor because it's just coming out in clumps. And
I think it was very smart of the author to put that scene in there. I loved seeing her and her mom have that normal fun. You know, they were trying on silly wigs and laughing at each other. And I loved seeing that.
Her mom let go for a little bit.
Yeah, so it kind of gave you the there is a little bit of normalcy in this family that's very dysfunctional.
Yes. And I thought it was nice to see because I think it's the one time that her mom really also lets go and puts her arms around her to comfort her and is there really there for her emotionally in that moment of devastation that she has. And then I'm
glad we got to see
have
that.
Fun. And I'm probably going to read the rest of the series at some point because I'm hoping to learn more about her mother because she just really intrigues me. I don't want to get into too many spoilers because I really think this book is free on Kindle Unlimited. It is well worth the read.
Yeah.
I think people should read it. And I don't want to talk too much about, you know, the last few chapters.
We want to give you something to discover.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The book, I did look today, the book's 99 cents. When we bought it, the first book was free, so it is 99 cents now. So,
it'll probably be free again.
It is in the Kindle Unlimited program, so if you are on Kindle Unlimited, you can read it through there. Yeah. Which is how I read it. I read it through Kindle Unlimited.
That's how I read it.
I wanted the author to get paid.
I read it through Kindle Unlimited as well. You know, Nick, you mentioned here, Nick asks her if it's a test, which is a fair, I mean, that was a fair question. Do you think it's a test? Do you think it's God testing you? And but I think test is the wrong word. Yes. I think it's more of a refinement, a trial, not a test. I'm not sure God, I don't really know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but I'm not sure God tests us in the way that we think of a test.
Yes.
I think trial is always a better.
Well, and that's kind of
a better word.
That's kind of the phrasing that the Bible used, because the Bible does talk about the trial of your faith. You know, like when you're going through a horrible time like that, and you stay close to God, for lack of a better word to say it, that's proof that your faith is genuine. So the trial of your faith shows, it serves, you know, if you're as close to God through a horrible ordeal as you were before, that proves that your faith is genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Bible says. So, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I think you're right. I don't think he sends us stuff like that to test us in that way. But it does prove to us that our faith is genuine. Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Oh, it's driving me nuts. There's a hair that's falling out of my head. And it's falling out of my head between my glasses and my eyes. So, speaking of. So, pardon the brief intermission. But they, I'm curious to see if there's growth from her father. I'd like to see more about her mother, if there's growth from Nick. I don't know if the other side characters come into it. I'm kind of rooting for Gina to have some sort of happy ending.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't in it a lot, but I liked Gina. I liked Gina and I liked Joy. And Joy had a heck of a backstory too.
She did.
You should read the book because it's a really interesting backstory.
Yeah.
But it was a good read, not heavy in parts, but not to the point where it would just weigh you down.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think she handled it very specific. And like we said, we don't know if this was a journey she went through or if she just, you know, she's writing about what she knows about. So Esther's a physiotherapist and she likes to hike and swim and, you know, all this stuff.
And if the author was also a physiotherapist, she's known a lot of patients. So she could be. So, but I would really like to, I really enjoyed this book so much. I would really like to maybe once we get into the new year, I would like to have the author on. She's one author that I would like to talk to. So maybe we can read book 2, and then maybe we can have her on to talk about. I really enjoyed this book, so I'd like to talk to her and have her on if possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking for maybe an author, for a new author, this is an amazing book.
It really was a good book.
I really recommend it too.
And it's not a super long read either.
No,
I mean, it's a decent length book, but it's not
300 pages. But
it was a 400-page book.
Yeah.
It's not like a 400-page book.
No.
It's not huge.
It was a reasonably sized book.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, my first few books, if you pick up my books, I'm a couple of pages under War and Peace. Not literally, but yeah. So
you've learned to tone it down.
I've learned to turn it down.
Okay.
I've learned, you know,
that's
what life's all about, learning. So yeah, these are just.
I have no room to talk. The longest thing I've ever written is 117,000 words, and it's not finished.
Well.
And I know that because there was a thing at the library that said it's NaNoWriMo. Do you know what NaNoWriMo is?
Yeah. National.
You know, what's the longest story you've ever written?
National Novel.
And I was like, you know what? I don't know. So I looked real quick and then I wrote it down. It's like, oh, wow, that's a lot of words to not be done with the story.
That is, yeah.
I'm a bad person.
How far from done are you?
Oh, so far.
Yeah, you're going to have to tone it down. Because I can tell you from personal experience. And if there's any aspiring authors out there that maybe they're working on writing a book, or maybe you haven't written a book yet, keep it short. Readers these days have a microwave mentality when it, you know, and it's the same on social media. If you post anything on social media, it better be 5 seconds or under, or otherwise people are don't have the mental servitude to, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a total opposite. Like, give me a 2-hour long video and I love it. So yeah, when it comes to writing books, keep it under 300 pages. Otherwise
you got a problem.
People are just very daunted by long books. And I get people are busy these days and it's like, but yeah,
And for anyone who doesn't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
And it's always November. Yeah. It took a few hits. The people that I have a friend who's very upset about the people that were in charge of it were not so nice. There were bad things happening. And there are a lot of people that refuse to participate in it anymore.
I've never
because of that.
In it.
But I have seen other people on social media. It's like hashtag take back NaNoWriMo. Back to what it was. Back to give it to good people.
Yeah.
People that aren't bad. And I don't know the details. I don't remember the details, but it was, her concern is legitimate. I will say that. Just because I read some and I was like, oh, well, that's not good. Huh. So I couldn't blame her for not wanting to participate in it anymore. But you can always take stuff back and make it back to what it was meant to be.
To what it was meant to be. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what NaNoWriMo is. It's National Novel Writing Month. And since we work on a college campus, I'm not at all surprised that the library brought that up. I thought it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Very cool thing, because there's a lot of students out there that just write for fun.
Yeah.
It's a release for them.
Well, and that's no matter how you do it. If you get enjoyment out of it, do it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So highly recommend this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad you found it. How did you find the book? Have we already talked about that? Well, I'm a little bit confused about what we talked about yesterday and what we talked about today.
I did not. I Googled Christian fiction.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for fall themed Christian fiction, but I didn't really find anything. And so I was just looking at, Christian, and I think it was under, I don't remember if it's under independent authors or not, but at any rate, it was there on a website. And I just clicked on it, and I liked the color blue, and I was intrigued by the description, and there you go.
There you go. Yeah. So, and this is, there's a lot of people out there. And if you're one of these people, I'm not judging, but there's a lot of people out there that will only read mainstream famous authors. If they're not Karen Kingsbury or Dee Henderson or, they're not going to read them. And oh my goodness, people that will only read famous authors, you're missing so many amazing books by not reading lesser known authors. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Give things
a shot.
Give them a chance.
Yeah.
Give them a shot.
Yeah.
Branch out. Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And you're one to talk because you are Miss.
I have my favorite authors, and I am reluctant to try new things, but I'm not stuck in my ways.
Yeah. And you're doing very good on the podcast about,
praise.
So, woohoo. So, anything else you want to say about this book?
No, I hated it. No, I'm joking. No, there was nothing really. Anything else I had to say would probably veer into spoiler territory, and
it was enjoyable.
I don't want to go in there. It was a good book. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the next book, I think I'm going to choose Melissa Tagg's Autumn by the Sea. I think it is. So I think that'll be our next read. We were going to read it an episode or two. Well, we were going to read it and talk about it at the last episode, but I pivoted at the last minute and decided I wanted to do.
We did fluffy Halloween things.
The Halloween thing, because it landed like a couple of days before Halloween. Yeah. So I think we're going to do that one this time. When I said pivoted, I thought of Ross on Friends. Pivot.
Moving furniture with me is, you don't want to try it.
Is it not pretty?
I will have to yell pivot, and pivot. Then everyone laughs and the couch is put down, and other people get mad. So
anybody that has watched Friends, you will never hear the word pivot and not think of Ross Geller. No.
And you will be less than useless when your friends move and ask for your help.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we are going to
more than useless.
We are going to get out of here and bring this to a close.
Yes.
But we look forward to meeting you guys back here and next week. So if you guys want to email us, we're at bookishintroverts at gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. You can find us by the same on Facebook and Instagram, Bookish Introverts Podcast. We'd love for you to follow us and see what shenanigans we're up to. And other than that, we're going to jump off here and let you guys go, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.